Welcome to Pesto Comics Audio Edition. This is the entry for November 6th, 2024. Don't skimp on the pulp. Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 launches today. Why I admire the pulp era, how it influences my work. Welcome back. I'm writing and recording this on Monday, so I have no idea what's going to happen south of the border with the United States elections. As a Canadian who's used to our parliamentary elections that can be called, completed, and certified well within a month, the past year of US media that fills our screens and podcast players has been exhausting, especially since we have no say in the matter. Worse yet is that we will be affected depending on how it all plays out. We're already seeing our dollar begin to slide in anticipation of things going pear-shaped, and this hasn't helped the costs of creating comics as almost everyone uses their greenback to make their deals. I think the 73% are roughly 1,180 subscribers from the US. You guys keep this and our various Kickstarter campaigns afloat, and I hope for nothing but the best for your country. The US is not just a vast country that I love to explore, but a neighbor that we depend on for a lot. I'm hoping things go as smooth as possible, but you'll know better than me as you listen to this post-election. All that seriousness aside, let's talk about what's coming up in the funny books. Project updates. This post is all about Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1. I won't get too into it for that reason, but this morning we've launched the first edition of Big Smoke Pulp. There's a link in the show notes for that. Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 is on Kickstarter right now. Archetypes Issue 2, 60% of the way there, as of Monday. Another project I'm involved in is Archetypes 2. They've got a much loftier goal than what I've set out for my campaigns, and as of Monday, they're hovering around 60%. I'll be continuing with my series of writing tools articles in here. If you followed me on Twitter in the past, you know I wrote these daily writing tips, and that led to these articles in this magazine. They've been received pretty well, but beyond that, you can get some amazing short comics from some of the best indie creators around. My article is honestly a small bonus to the grade A entertainment inside these pages. Event updates. Thought Bubble in 10 days. My bags aren't quite packed yet, but I've been making a mental catalog of what to bring with me over the pond. I'm very excited for this one. I'll also be milling about the Tiny Onion MidCon party, so if you can't track me down at table C14A in Red Shirt Hall, you'll be able to find me there enjoying a stout or 3. Now, let's talk about the latest offering from Pesto Comics in detail. But first, a story for you. We get it already. You went to film school. Ignoring that it was a lifetime ago, I bring up my relatively brief time in film school an awful lot. You'd think I'd have moved on from that by now, having been decades removed from it, but it had a huge part in shaping how I see the world, how I conduct business, and what goals I continue to aim for. It's a big deal. The main reason I bring it up this time is my original goal when I walked into those studio doors at the CBC building in Toronto. I wanted to be a screenwriter. Film school may have been the last place I should have gone to do that. Sure, I learned the format and the challenges on the production side of things, but it didn't teach me how to write a story. For that, I relied on books. Tons of books. It started with instructional books like Save the Cat, Story, and The Complete Idiot's Guide to Screenwriting. But I'd branch out to anything that would give me even a little insight. Moreover, I would read all kinds of novels to get a good sense of storytelling, along with watching hours and hours of films. All with a very steady diet of comics. None of that has really changed, honestly, but it was set in stone in this time of my life. As I discovered the type of screenwriter I wanted to be, I gravitated to one era in particular: Dalton, Trumbo, and The Blacklist. I try not to pick an individual to model myself after, as I feel like it's a good way to set yourself up to fail. Nor am I interested in dealing with the same trials and tribulations that Dalton Trumbo had. But there's one part of his story that I can't help but get inspired by: the unrelenting urge to write. Even with the government coming down on Trumbo, threatening to imprison him for a fallacy of charges, he had to write. He would argue it was to put food on the table, but there were other safer ways to make money if that was truly the reason behind it. It's a compulsion to create, and to do so prolifically, that I get behind. Some would argue that I'm missing the point of that whole period of time, and I get all that. It's certainly very relevant today, but I took this very specific lesson about writing out of it, along with all those others. A quick side note. If you haven't seen the movie adaptation of Dalton Trumbo's story in Trumbo starring Bryan Cranston, I recommend you remedy that. I have a lot of stories to tell. I could spend my life polishing one or two, hoping that they reveal themselves as gems, or I can get all of them out and see what ends up being the strongest of the lot. I believe that by getting your reps in, you only get stronger with each piece of work, so I intend to by being a writing machine, not unlike the Pulp Masters. Lester Dent, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Lawrence Block, Raymond Chandler, Philip K. Dick, Harlan Ellison, Dashiell Hammett, Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Robert E. Howard, and a bunch I'm surely forgetting. These are just the authors that I can list off the top of my head. They're authors that would have, and may still have, the literary community turning up their noses at them. Yet, the works of these authors are giddily converted into films, which, in turn, earn film directors Academy Awards. It's a strange twist of fate for these stories. To be ignored in one medium just to be celebrated in another. If there's been a theme to my past few posts on this Substack, or if you're listening to the podcast, it's been about writing genre fiction. It's all about how it relies on the writer figuring out the tropes and using them to their advantage. Genre fiction doesn't need to be lowbrow or formulaic. When it's done correctly, like the authors I just listed did regularly, it reveals something new about humanity while remaining in familiar packaging. I love the pulps. That's why I needed to do what I could to bring more attention to them. What is Big Smoke Pulp? It's a collection of the best pulp stories I could find in an open call. I read as much as I can, as often as I can. I subscribe to Asimov's Science Fiction and Fact, Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine, Apex Magazine, Clark's World Magazine. I love me a good short story. Yet, I don't always find the type of story I love in these books. I'm sure there's nothing inherently wrong with the stories that are selected. I can only imagine the amount of submissions they receive, and curating those down into what makes it to shelves is no small feat. Still, rarely do I find the stories I'm looking for. I want stories with tension and high pace. I want to read stories that I can't put down, one after the other. Instead, these collections tend to be more pensive and slow burn than what I crave. Rather than being satisfied with the odd story that suits my desires, I decided to curate them myself into a collection of absolute bangers. Every story contained in Big Smoke Pulp grabs on and won't let go till the very last word. No word is wasted. It's meant to be a great, heavy book that you just can't put down. If you've enjoyed anything I've written in the past, this book will be right up your alley. This is what you can get. In true pulp novel fashion, the main reward is this book in a pocketbook paperback format. It won't look out of place between your Mike Hammer and Conan the Barbarian books on your shelf or in your stack. However, not everyone is looking for that style of book. Tradition is that paperbacks find their way into the world after having a slick hardcover available. This campaign is no different. We'll have a Kickstarter exclusive hardcover during this campaign only. We'll be printing the exact amount that is ordered, so it's truly a now or never scenario. If you prefer to read digitally on your Kobo or Kindle device, we'll have a digital tier that will be your only way to get DRM-free copies of the book. Once the campaign is over, you'll be able to find it on all your typical digital stores, but with all the usual DRM you would find there. If you'd like the freedom to read these books your way, the Kickstarter campaign is a must. If you recently missed out on one or more of our campaigns, you'll also have the opportunity to bundle this book with our back catalog of comic book offerings, including From Parts Unknown #1, Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, Stay Cool, and Unlimited Udo. That includes both physical copies and DRM-free digital ones that are only available via Kickstarter. The book clocks in at a hefty 500 pages, and that's set to grow the better the campaign goes. As we hit stretch goals, we'll be adding more stories written by me, along with adding your name to the list of supporters in the back pages. These pages will be included in both editions of the book. But what if you want more than just your name listed as a supporter? What if you have a germ of an idea that you just haven't been able to see through? We have a tier for that. You can pitch me a story, I'll write it for you, and it'll be included in the book. You'll receive a story buy credit, and you can see your work published along with a long list of amazing authors contained within these pages. If that wasn't enough to convince you, let's see who's involved in this project. Who is responsible for this? You may have seen the screen grab on last week's post or the pre-launch page. All of these authors have provided stories that cut through the 200 plus submissions to be included in this sizable collection. The stories span from noir to sci-fi to romance to comedy to old-fashioned thrillers. Every single one of them is an edge-of-your-seat thrilling experience. These are all easily digestible short stories, ranging from 100 to 5,000 words, all meant to be read in one sitting, so you're getting a complete story end to end. Though there's clear breaks from one story to the next, I dare you to put this collection down. These authors understood the assignment. They sink their hooks in and they do not let go. You'll find yourself rereading these stories time and time again for how well crafted and thrilling they are. I can't wait for you to get your hands on them, in whatever format you choose. But wait, isn't this Pesto comics? It sure is. But at the end of the day, I'm a writer. I appreciate all forms of the craft, whether it's screenwriting, which I thought I'd end up doing regularly as a fresh-faced 18-year-old film student, comic writing that I've been doing regularly and will be doing a lot more in the coming months, short story writing, which I continue to experiment with to this day, and novel series writing, which I'll share more about in the near future. I just enjoy writing too much. It's one of the most narcissistic activities you can partake in, assuming that anyone would want to take the time to read your thoughts or your takes on the world. Yet, I feel an insatiable urge to do so. I can't help myself. And as always, I thank you for indulging me in that. And I hope you'll do the same with this amazing collection of authors with Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1. Until next week. Coming up on the Substack. November 13th. I'm no artist, but I try. My Adventure with Inktober 2024. November 20th. Con Journal. Just look for The Lost Canadian. The last con of 2024. Thought Bubble. And November 27th. Fun with Fulfillment. From Parts Unknown #1. The second part of the From Parts Unknown #1 postmortem. And that's it for this week. So, I've mentioned it a couple times, I'll be at Thought Bubble in a couple weeks. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Again, I have no idea what I'm going to do while I'm there. I'll bring a handful of books for people to flip through in that. I also am considering some exclusives to bring. Those will be a lot of fun. I have some ideas. I'll share them next week if I manage to get those together. Come see me if you're on that side of the world. I also mentioned I'll be at that mid-con party, so I'll probably be drinking alone unless somebody comes to talk to me. So I'd love for you to come by and say hi and we can chat it up. It'd be great. And then, yeah, the bigger thing, of course, right now is we have just launched Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1. Again, I'm recording this on Monday, so I have no idea what Tuesday brings. I sure hope we've funded by now. But if not, please help get us there. Check it out on Kickstarter. You could also just go to bigsmokepulp.com. That'll bring you to the same site. But yeah, I really appreciate if you do check it out. It means the world. I really want to be able to do this on a yearly basis. We'll see if it's going to be a November thing or when. But it really depends on the support that we get with this book. I didn't get into it in the post, but why am I doing all this? I mean, this is my first foray into publishing prose, but it's kind of my pilot to see how this all works, how the Kickstarter end of publishing works, and because there's a lot planned for next year. I'll be sharing that at the beginning of next year, what my plan is, as far as I can see, for 2025. There's quite a bit. There's a lot of things I've been keeping under the vest, and I'll definitely share as much as I can. I have some partners that I'm working with as well, and we'll have to see how they feel about me sharing certain things. But I have a ton planned. 2025 will be a really big year if everything goes as planned. 2024 has been very generous to me, and it's been a good start, and I've met a lot of cool people. And more than ever, I'm starting to feel like I'm part of the community. But I'm hoping 2025 is a real coming out party for all of the kinds of stuff that will be coming out of here and stuff I'm working on and out of Pesto Comics and all that business. And not just myself, but with a lot of cool collaborators. So I'm really looking forward to sharing all of that very soon. But for any of it to happen, as always, I need your support. So for this very last campaign of 2024, please visit Big Smoke Pulp on Kickstarter. And until then, next week I will share with you my horrible, awful art. I am probably being a little too harsh. It's not great. They're doodles. But I had a lot of fun with Inktober, even though I was well behind. I still actually have 2 or 3 more that I have to finish today. Right now, November 4th. I haven't finished my October drawings. But I will get them all done before next post. And yeah, we'll talk through them, kind of tell you my history with art and all that stuff. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to leave some comments. If you're listening podcast wise, please subscribe. You can even throw a rating on there. That'd be wonderful if you could do that on whatever podcast player you're using. And yeah, and if you're on Substack, of course, if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you would. But anyways, another long ramble for another long week. I thank you very much for listening. Again, here's hoping everything's going smooth and wonderful in the world. As you can tell, a little bit of anxiety about what's to come, but I'm hoping that it's all for naught. And you're hearing this on a wonderful sunny day and everything's all good. But if not, the world goes on. We'll get through it one way or another. But for now, let's just focus on what we can handle. So I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Have a good one. Thanks again.